campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome into Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Ari Feinstein alongside the fantastic Maria Wainscott and the one and only Jacob Charnow. Syracuse, let's jump right into it. Syracuse is coming off one of their most complete games of the season against Cal, winning that game 33-25 with another date against UConn this week. What did we like from the game against Cal?
In my opinion, it was the best half of Syracuse football we've seen. We talked a lot on this show earlier in the season about, a strong first quarter and then a second quarter slump. I felt like I saw a complete first half from Syracuse, and then in terms of efficiency and technicality, it was just the most complete game that they've played so far. Every single drive, all 5 drives in that first half, ended with points and then 2 interceptions from normally a very dependable Fernando Mendoza. It was just exciting to see Syracuse just light up after that tough loss and finally see that winners get washed.
Yeah, what you see is resilience, I think, in that game against Cal. You have to travel across the country, probably the first time they've done that in who knows how long, having to go play Cal, a very solid football team out there at Cal. You come out, I loved what LeQuinn Allen did in this game. I love that they controlled the time of possession, kept him on the ground, 2 touchdowns for LeQuinn. Just overall, a really amazing game from this offense. It showed really everything starting to come together for Fran Bowden and this football team, and I think that that's kind of a preview of what we're going to see in the future for Syracuse.
Yeah, absolutely. And Syracuse now is 7-3 heading into their matchup against UConn. McCord threw over 300 yards again. He's done that in every single game this season except the one against Virginia Tech. And now moving into this week against UConn, they're also a gritty team. 7 wins is nothing to be. I mean, it's something to be afraid of. So what does Syracuse need to do in order to take the win against UConn?
Yeah, I think you can't overlook UConn because you have that big game on the schedule circled against Miami in 2 weeks, and I just think there's something about this UConn team that scares me. I would be a lot more nervous about this game if we were going to UConn, but the fact that it's at the Dome is big for this team. UConn, though, coming off 3 straight wins, 7-3 record, like you mentioned, this is not a team to take lightly. Once again, though, you have to control that time of possession. Don't turn the ball over. Make smart decisions. Like I said, control the ball. Time of possession will win you this game easily. In my opinion, this game should be over by halftime when we're looking at it, but will it is the question. Can they keep going? Like we said, complete first halves, complete second half, rather than getting all jumpy in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you asked what could have been improved over that game last week with Cal. We saw a lot of great stuff, but this UConn team is a formidable one, and something I'd like to see from the Orange is just being better on third down. We need to work on third down conversions. The Orange were 3-7 on third down, and although they successfully converted a trio of fourth downs to keep their drives alive, I would have really liked to see more productivity coming from those conversions on third down. At the end of the day, though, it's about Syracuse keeping those drives alive, which is a lot improved from what I've seen earlier in the season. So I'm a happy girl at the end of the day if that's what I'm seeing from Syracuse against UConn. But as Jacob mentioned, this is not a team to be overlooked. Not at all. I mean, UConn has such a formidable offensive line. They return 4 of 5 starters, and 3 of their starters are also seniors. So this is a team with a seriously seasoned and veteran presence, and that's something to be feared. They don't throw the ball very much at all, but they're quite good and quite seasoned at running the ball, which we've seen. Unfortunately, I hate to harken back to Stanford. It's a little bit scarring for some of us Syracuse fans, but this could be a game, that's a winnable one, but with a team that is so comfortable running the ball, our defense needs to wake up, and they need to wake up fast. Syracuse needs to start this game fast, and if Syracuse can get off to a huge offensive lead at the beginning, we will force UConn into a position where they'll have to throw that ball, which is not where they want to be.
Like you mentioned, that defensive line is going to be really big for Syracuse. Darrell Robinson, the freshman at UConn, has been fantastic this season. Almost 700 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns, averaging 6.9 yards per carry, which is obscene. But if the defensive line can just get home, force pressure on UConn, you've played better offensive lines than this season already.
Yeah.
You played a better offensive line last week against Cal. Just everyone's got to take a deep breath. If you're Coach Brown and you're this defense and you're this team, honestly, as a whole, take a deep breath. yeah, you have Miami next week. You have to get business done at the Dome against UConn, and I think it starts in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to rushing defense, this has been Syracuse's weakness all season long. They're the third worst in the ACC when it comes to rushing defense. And like Maria mentioned, this team loves to run the ball. You know, they have 3 prominent running backs that can all get the job done. Jacob, you mentioned Darrell Robinson, 650 yards, 7 touchdowns. They also have Cam Edwards, who has 530 yards and 5 touchdowns, and Mel Brown with 510 yards and 2 touchdowns, with an overall total of 19 touchdowns on the ground, you know. And Syracuse, they gave up 166 yards against Cal, 313 rushing yards against BC, and 249 against VT.
Right.
So if we're ever going to see improvement to the rushing defense, it has to be this week, especially before that big running quarterback that'll be coming to the Dome, Mr. Cam Ward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of did a double take this week when I was looking at the line, Syracuse being the heavy favorite this week. This is a scary team in UConn. I mean, they gave some serious trouble to Duke and to Wake Forest. Those were really close games against serious ACC competition that I'm sure Syracuse would have their hands full with as well. With all the one-score games that Syracuse has won or lost in our entire season, I'm nervous with the Huskies coming into the Dome. They're also coming off of a bye, and I'll say the offensive momentum rolls over, right? So I'd love to see with Syracuse, hopefully, their offensive momentum can roll over from that win against Cal. And hopefully with it being senior day as well, they will take all that momentum and that excitement and channel it into their playing. Also, a win on Saturday would give Syracuse 8 regular season wins for just the second time since 2001. I mean, the second time in the 21st century that Syracuse logs 2 regular seasons with 8 wins is just monumental. So I'm hoping that Fran Brown is coaching his team this game with a lot more excitement. I hope that they know what this win would mean, not just for the conference, but also just, you know, for Syracuse history. And Kyle McCord, too, has a lot on the line this game with being a stat leader as well. So it's very exciting.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned Fran Brown. Obviously, he has 2 more games left of the regular season. Syracuse, they're unfortunately out of ACC championship contention and probably college football playoff contention as well. So pretty much he's wrapping up his season. He's got 3 more games, these 2, and then the bowl game, right? So after his first full season of being Syracuse's head coach, what would be your grade for Fran Brown?
Honestly, I have to wait until after the Miami game, if I'm being honest. So, I mean, that game is so important to the overall culture of this team and the outlook heading into next season and heading into that bowl game, whatever it may be. There are teams that are unranked, that are significantly worse than Miami, that have given them trouble in the past couple weeks. They've played a lot of close games. They've been down in a lot of games where they probably necessarily shouldn't have been down. That's the most important. So far, Fran Brown this year brought a lot of culture to this team that was much needed, a lot of grit, a lot of determination, and like I said, a lot of resilience. I would say in terms of production and winning and what their goals were heading into this year, I'll probably give him a B+ grade. But in terms of the future, I think I'm looking more like an A-.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Jacob. I think I have to wait and see in terms of the technicalities of the season, what I would grade the season in terms of performance. In terms of leadership, I think I can wholeheartedly give this season an A with Fran Brown. I have been so wholly impressed by not just the coach that he is, but also the human being that he is. I feel that he is so level-headed, no matter if it's a win or a loss, a close win or a tough loss. You know, he keeps his head so level with this team, and he doesn't let them know that this is the end of the world if we lose this, or this game means all of these extra things. In every press conference, he's talking about, it's just this week. We don't really care about the opponent. We're focused on our team and living up to our fullest potential. And I think that's such a great message for a team that's reached new heights, right? Like, there weren't a lot of expectations this season to be the best. 8-win season is more than a lot of people could have hoped for, which is really exciting. And I just feel that I have been so impressed with Fran Brown, his maturity, his responsibility, taking accountability for the mistakes of this team. I think we've talked about many a time on this show.
Definitely.
And I think that's just such great leadership, not just to the new guys that are rising up through this program, and we'll definitely have lots of great moments with Fran Brown moving forward, but also to the guys who are moving on. There's 25 players, managers, and student assistants that will be honored in a pregame ceremony for senior day, and they've all been, bettered just by being around Fran Brown, and I know that for sure. It's really exciting that Fran Brown has come to Syracuse and started a tradition here. The culture that he started is just, it's wonderful, and I'm honored to have been a part of, being a student here while he's been coaching here. So definitely an A in terms of culture.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the future, the big difference is when we had Coach Babers here last year, the question heading into the next season was always, let's be better. Heading into next season, you've developed a fundamental base for what this football team should be, what they should look like. It goes from let's be better to let's go win the ACC next year. That's the conversation change, and I think that's the biggest difference in what Fran Brown has brought.
Absolutely, and I love how you said the expectations heading into next season. Everyone was a little unsure about this season and what would happen. New coach, new quarterback, a completely new roster, right? And a new offensive and defensive coordinators, I believe. I could be mistaken on that. But just the difference that we've seen from Fran Brown, the culture that is now around Syracuse football. Syracuse now has the most verbal commits in the country heading into next season. So there's certainly a lot to be excited about. And right after this, wrapping up football, Syracuse, they have their game against UConn this weekend. But men's basketball had their game last night at the Barclays Center against Texas. We will find out more about what happened then right after this break. Sweet. Good stuff. Yep.
Awesome. Great job, guys.
Was that a good toss?
Yeah, it was great.
All right, cool.
Smooth.
All right, I did my best there.
No, you're fine. I'm doing a package on Lights on the Lake right now.
Wait, you're doing it on what?
Like a Lights on the Lake. It's a Wegmans sponsored event. Like, it's a drive-through lights show. Everyone should go.
Sweet.
It's fun. It's been hard getting interviews, though, because people are driving through in their cars. So
yeah,
kind of hard to flag them down.
Fair enough. Do you guys have Thanksgiving at your houses? Or do you guys go somewhere?
Yes, we have Thanksgiving at my house.
We host too.
Same.
It's a lot, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I honestly hope Daniel Jones goes to the Cowboys. I feel like that would make that Cowboys-Giants game a lot more interesting than it already is. Or a lot more interesting than it isn't already is.
What time we coming back?
2:15.
15?
Yeah, we got some time. You think we hear Juan Soto news by the time we get back?
He met with the Dodgers,
The Phillies.
like the Phillies and the Mets.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm so upset. I'm going to be so upset if they don't get him back.
If he's a Met, I'm going to be thrilled.
Oh my God, if he's a Met, I'll crash out. That's not even, that's, oh. It's unimaginable for me right now.
I'm going to do the sponsor now, just so I don't forget. Men's hoops, women's hoops.
I love hoops.
Same. It's fun.
Arriving daily. ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back into Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Ari Feinstein alongside Maria Wainscott and Jacob Charnow. This hour of Newhouse Afternoon is powered by Drivers Village Cicero. Go to dvoffers.com for more info. Last night, Syracuse, they had their fourth game in the season at the Barclays Center against the Texas Longhorns. A lot of Syracuse fans, they were really worried about this one after their first three close games with non-conference opponents. But now, with a tougher opponent in Texas, they unfortunately lost that game 70-66. But there was still a lot of promise. The team seemed to gel together a lot better. They seemed to play up to their competition. So after last night's game, what are your thoughts? First impressions?
I was really impressed. I think maybe I just was a bit skeptical after the first three games of the season being basically decided by a possession. But now that I saw how Syracuse plays up against really tough elite competition in Texas, I'm a bit settled. I see that they play to the level of their competition, which could be a con. But last night it was a pro. There was a lot to love last night. However, there was some stuff that needed to be worked on. I think you guys know what I'm going to say. The reason for that first loss of the season is free throws. You cannot go 9 of 18 in a game and lose by the margin that they lost by last night. I mean, it's just heart-wrenching, and you can pinpoint exactly the moments that they needed to execute in order to win that game. That is what is so heartbreaking for this squad that really deserved that win last night. They were the better team. It was a tale of two halves, but they came back after being down 11 points in the half. And this was just an execution of everything that Coach Autry has been wanting to see from this squad. You know, perhaps you can go 9 of 18 against elite opponents, but what really makes Texas the better squad overall is the fact that they went 12 from 14 from that same stat line. So you just can't afford to do that over someone like Texas.
Yeah, look, I was also very impressed by the Orange coming out yesterday. Really competing against a really solid Texas team. The issue, I think, and I'm going to say it for the women's team too, is unity. Not everybody is doing what they need to do on the court. Not all 5 guys that are on the court at the same time are doing what they need to be doing. And when you're playing competition like Texas, that is crucial. That needs to be happening. You look at Jaquan Carlos out there for 21 minutes, 3 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Lucas Taylor, 19 minutes, 0 points, 1 rebound, the only stat he recorded. Elijah Moore, 10 minutes, zeros across the board. This is unacceptable. And it makes it even harder to win games. College basketball games are already hard to win.
Yeah.
It makes it even harder when you're shooting yourself in the foot like they did with the free throws, and having guys out there that just really aren't contributing to the level that they need to be. And I understand it's still early in the season, but when you look at the outlook for this team, like, this team has tournament aspirations, and it's only going to happen if they can get all 5 guys doing what they need to be doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I like to see, or what I liked that I saw last night, is how one way that this team relies on scoring is Chris Bell, right? And last season, he was such an anchor for this team. His three-point shooting was immaculate. At the beginning of this season, he got to a slow start, but as I was listening to the broadcast last night, Jay Williams said the only way to get yourself out of a shooting slump is to shoot your way out of it, you know? And Chris Bell, he rose to the occasion last night, but another player that really rose to the occasion was Eddie Lampkin. He was a monster on both ends of the floor. Sure, the numbers, they might not see it, only 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists, but, he was everywhere last night. He was a big body in the middle, and Texas really had their hands full baseball with him.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad you mentioned Eddie Lampkin because I was going there next. In the post-game presser, he said, "Everywhere I go, I have always been that guy." The reporters were asking him, the stadium was chanting Eddie. It was basically a Syracuse home game with just how many Syracuse fans were in attendance. Pretty awesome for us. And also Carmelo Anthony was there.
Yep. And
with his son
Kyan.
Yes,
yep.
Really exciting. And it was great to see that the guys sort of took that energy and played with it. Would have loved to obviously see that if it didn't have sort of home court energy, but I feel like Eddie absolutely capitalizes it. He knows he's been that guy. And he said that more than that, it's all about the win. It's all he cares about. He doesn't care about being that guy. And even if he has a little bit of an ego, it is in fact justified because he's also said that he prefers to pass the ball. He's big on assists. We know that. And he actually reminds me a bit of DJ Burns from NC State last season, just in terms of...
That's a good shout.
Yeah, no, really. I was watching the game last night and I was like, I just feel like he reminds me of DJ Burns. He's obviously a bit more mobile. He's all over the board. In my opinion, he's a bit of a better player all around. But I'm really excited what I saw from Eddie Lampkin, and hopefully we can get a lot more of him this season.
I mean, like you said, led the team in assists last night. That was awesome to see. One of the I hate to be pessimistic with this team because they did play much better than I expected them to play last night.
Sure.
But J.J. Starling, cornerstone on this team, cornerstone on this offense. He's a three-point shooter. Can't go 2 for 8 in a game. You can't do it.
No.
It's unacceptable. This team they were 5 for 21 from the three from outside the arc. That if you're going to take those shots, more of them have to go in than 5 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And just while we're on the improvement area, I know we already talked about free throw shooting and being more precise there, but if you're Coach Autry, what you need to do this week in practice is pretty clear. Yeah. Not just improving free throws, right? But play your entire scrimmage. Play all of your games and do everything that you need to do in terms of, your zone training and all sorts of team drills. And then afterwards, shoot your free throws then. You need to learn how to shoot free throws under fatigue. That is what I saw the issue consistently has been for this team.
I think that Coach Autry needs to, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Coach Carter, right? And after practice, they each had to shoot 53 free throws and make them before they left the gym. And honestly, I think Coach Autry might need to take a page out of Coach Carter's book and do the same thing for this team. But one thing that I want to mention is the schedule ahead for this Syracuse team.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any easier. Tonight they face off against Texas Tech, and then they face off against Cornell, who always plays them hard. They're literally like Colgate. It's right. Colgate and Cornell.
It's so frustrating. We said it 2 weeks ago.
we
that was before the Colgate game, I think, was our show, and we were saying that Colgate game was scary.
Yeah,
and it ended up being very scary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this Texas Tech game tonight, you should win. You should beat Texas Tech. I would love to hear what you guys have to say because I'm obviously very nervous about this.
Yeah, I'm nervous as well. I think you just have to look at what happened last night. The St. Joe's Texas Tech game was as close, if not a bit closer, than the Syracuse game last night that we watched against Texas. And, that was decided by a last-second goal. You know what I mean? So I think you just can't count out Texas Tech. It's going to come down to the last possessions of the game. And that is exactly why we say the free throws matter. Because every play of that game is going to matter when you're looking at the very last plays of the game, and that's going to decide the game. I think that's exactly what's going to happen again tonight.
And I think one of the biggest things that Syracuse needs to do for this game tonight is really build off of what they did last night. They went down early. Kyan Anthony was about to check into the game, I swear. What they need to do for tonight, they need to build off last night. They need to get on that roll that they got on in the second half, in the first half. Get ahead early. Put pressure on Texas Tech. Really utilize the outside corner threes that they're good at. When they knock them down, they're a tough team to beat. They need to keep relying on Eddie Lampkin. He needs to be another big part of the game plan. And like you mentioned earlier, J.J. Starling needs to continue to be J.J. Starling and knock down his shots to give Syracuse the best chance to win this game.
Tonight's key is defense. I think without a doubt tonight's key is defense. You look at this kid J.T. Toppin on Texas Tech, averaging 20 points a game, 11 rebounds per game. You have to be able to go up there. Eddie Lampkin, I think, has done a great job these last couple games in terms of rebounding and all that. And defensively, he needs to continue that tonight. Get those rebounds over JT Toppin. He's bigger than him. He's taller than him. You need to just be aggressive. And honestly, I don't know who's going to guard him tonight because Lampkin, Eddie Lampkin could guard him, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what kind of game plan they roll out on Toppin, but maintaining him and keeping him kind of in a bubble is going to be really important to them, to their success tonight.
And speaking of game plan, we saw the men's game plan last night. What I really want to focus on briefly before we head to break is the women's team.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, they're not off to the start that they wanted to, going 2-3. FLJ had some comments last night about the environment of Syracuse and everything like that. But turnovers still a huge issue for the Syracuse women's team. 85 turnovers in 5 games. It's not sustainable if you're trying to be a winning team.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the great honor and privilege of being the sideline reporter for 2 of the women's games so far this season, and I got to talk to Coach Jack, and her biggest issue is turnovers, right? Absolutely. And also defense. She told me that her team is disrespecting the game by not respecting the defense. They need to learn how, or at least her bigs, they need to learn how to get down and dirty without getting into foul trouble. So that, combined with the fact that turnovers have been at an all-time high for this squad, it's just not looking so great for this women's team. And it's not by lack of effort, and it's not by lack of great coaching and great leadership. It's just what Jacob was saying, unity. This team needs to work on being a unit, and after losing Deasia Fair last season, they're still working out who is going to be the biggest game player each game.
And speaking of turnovers, there was much of it in New York football, with the Giants benching Daniel Jones and ultimately releasing him today, and the Jets firing their general manager and firing Robert Saleh earlier in the season. And we'll be talking about all that right after this short break.
I'm going to be heated. I'm about to get fired up.
Jacob, my dad said, because when we're on, we were talking about Soto, he's watching. He said Jacob might cry if the Mets get him.
I might. I really might.
Definitely.
I'm excited about this next segment.
Good. I'll probably ask you guys some things just about
Go for it.
what you're most excited for coming out of this season and who you hope will enter your different administrations moving forward.
Do you think Dable is coaching for his job at all?
No.
Do you think Joe Shane might be?
Shane's a different situation. I think Dable's safe.
You can't fire the GM without firing the head coach.
Yeah. I think they get one more year. Regardless of it's just the locker room right now is so divided.
Like, you give him, the issue becomes, you give him one more year, and then you draft a quarterback, and then after his rookie year, you then fire his head coach and fire his general manager and bring in a lot of turnover. I've seen this with the Jets so many times.
Yeah.
It's just fire him before. If you're going to fire them, fire them.
Yeah, but
or keep them.
I've liked Shane's moves, though. Other than, re-signing Jones, and I think letting Barkley walk was the right move. I will still stand on that, but I think I
love Brian Dable. I think he's
the guy. Yeah. But when it comes to just letting Xavier McKinney go and Saquon for nothing, that's kind of hard to justify.
Xavier McKinney, just obvious good player. Obvious good player. I don't know how you let that kind of guy walk.
And Tyler Nubin, he's been good to
Minnesota.
He's been good to he's been a good stepping into that role. So I don't know.
Safety's replaced. Safety's very replaceable.
Yeah, replaceable.
But McKinney's production right now in Green Bay
is unreal.
It's tough if you're, John Mara, and you're looking at the rest of the league and all these moves, what Saquon's doing in Philly, what McKinney is doing in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And the guys he did keep, Daniel Jones. Yeah, it's just tough. It's tough to justify giving him more time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he gets one more year. I think he's going to draft a quarterback in the draft. And
which one?
I also want to ask, maybe, what does the rest of your season look like now?
Lose as many games as you. We're both on the same page with that. We both wanted to see our teams lose. Lose out. I'm going to pull up Tankathon.
I'm going to ask you guys that.
Cool.
Jets with the 6th pick currently.
We have
Thank
the
you,
third
thank
pick.
you to the Cleveland Browns for winning your game last night.
Yeah, really.
So do you want me to toss it to you and then toss it to, how do you want
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I'll ask some questions about whatever, because you guys I know are so passionate about it, and I have thoughts, but I'm also like, it's not my team. I'm
Yeah,
upset
fair.
with my team. They lost to the Browns last night, but I'd like to hear from you guys.
If we've got time, we could talk Buffalo also.
Yeah. I mean,
I think we should mention something briefly about Buffalo beating the Chiefs and like where the trajectory they're on
Josh Allen
currently.
is probably the MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
And that's big. Like, we got to mention that.
Yeah.
Being, we're touching on all our New York teams.
Offer ends 12/2/24.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon. Before the break, we were talking about a lot of the turnovers from the women's team and how, or from not the women's team, the turnovers in New York from new quarterbacks, new general managers, new head coaches, and now a new beginning for these New York sports teams. Maria, I'm sorry last night about your Steelers dropping that game to the Browns.
So
Pretty
tough.
tough loss, but moving into New York, to the New York Giants and New York Jets. Jacob, I'm going to start with you as the obvious Jets fan between you and myself. So what are your thoughts for the Jets?
Yeah, so obviously the Jets fired Joe Douglas, their general manager, earlier in the week. The only thing I can say is that we're starting fresh. Joe Douglas, when you look at the last 6 years that he's been with this team, sure, he's drafted a lot of good players like Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall. But at the same time, he's probably made some of the worst free agent signings I've seen in the time that I've been a fan of this team. And listen, you give Joe Douglas his own head coach, you give him his own quarterback. He says, I want to move off Sam Darnold. You give him Zach Wilson. You fail on the quarterback, you fail on the head coach. It's a fireable offense. You miss on so many free agent signings. He's got to go. Notable names: DJ Reed, Hassan Reddick, Tyler Conklin, Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith, Jamian Sherwood. All of them are hitting free agency, and I think they all end up walking. Aaron Rodgers probably gone after this year anyway. Good riddance. He's washed. So this was a disaster. It was. But there's a core to this team that makes it an attractive job for potential GMs or head coaches. The big issue is that we have an issue that can't be replaced, which is our owner. Woody Johnson listens to Twitter opinions instead of his football guys. That's real. That's a real story that broke earlier in the week. He demanded for Tony Adams to be benched, the safety, to be benched. Demanded for Aaron Rodgers to be benched after the Week 4 loss against the Broncos. This team isn't cursed. This team has an owner problem. That's the big difference. If you're Woody Johnson, I honestly don't even think, or Woody Johnson probably won't even be the owner, the active owner of the team, because if you guys remember in 2016, he went to be the UK ambassador, or the US ambassador in the UK for Trump's administration, and I think he's going to do it again now. So don't worry, his brother is going to take over as the active owner, but Woody is probably going to help out with the GM and the head coach search. Honestly, I don't really know where to go with this. You need a quarterback. We'll see what kind of draft pick they end up with, but you need a quarterback. There's a lot of pieces on this defense, and the most important is you need a head coach.
Right.
And that's something that we haven't been able to get right. Obviously, the last decade or since Rex Ryan was the head coach of this team. But we'll talk after a little bit about some guys that I think would be great head coaching candidates or head coach replacements for the Jets. But Ari, I want to hear about your Giants, because on the flip side, you are not. I don't know if you're happy. I don't know if you're, just frustrated with the entirety of the situation, disappointed. But Daniel Jones released this morning, like you said. Yeah. I'm not surprised, but like I said, I am disappointed as a football fan.
When it comes to Daniel Jones, right, this year was year 6, all right? And if you're running a business like an NFL football team or just a business in general, if you're not good at your job, you're going to get fired.
Yep.
Right, at the end of the day. Daniel Jones, he had 6 years to prove himself. All right. He is, besides that one outlier year when he had a pretty consistent year, led the Giants to the playoffs, he hasn't been good, and he's had 3 different head coaches. He's had 2 general managers. And the one common denominator that's been the same is Daniel Jones, So obviously there's a pattern here, Bad football team. It's not that we're scapegoating the head coach, we're scapegoating the general manager. But now the Giants finally did what they needed to do and scapegoat that quarterback that's been holding them back for so many years. Obviously the injury clause came into effect, and that for the reason why they benched him. So now they get to keep all that money, but now it doesn't matter because they released him. But the one thing that I don't understand with this whole Daniel Jones thing is how everyone feels so bad for him, all over the media today on ESPN, they were, today, like on like First Take, they were talking about him, and just everything that's happened. But the thing is, like, I just don't feel bad for him. I don't. It's hard for me to feel bad for him. I watched him play for 6 years, and he hasn't been good, and it's frustrating. And Tommy Cutlets last year, when he started for the Giants, he won us 4 games, and that was exciting. Tyrod Taylor, when he played, he won us games. So obviously, it was the quarterback. It was time for him to be scapegoated, and I'm finally glad he does. Good riddance. I'm rooting for the guy. Yeah. He can go to the Cowboys, or he could go to any other team and have success. I wish him the best, but I'm so happy now that Giants fans were finally free from this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, guys, I'm happy that this could be a therapy session today. I feel the pain.
I mean, there is a connect between Joe Douglas and Daniel Jones when you look at it.
There certainly is,
yeah. You're bad at your job, you get fired. You
Absolutely.
You have 6 years to come in there and do something, and you don't do anything, and people want to, people try and find every excuse for both of them.
Right.
Honestly, that's how it was. For Joe Douglas, it was, Zach Wilson's bad. Oh, now he's got Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Oh, now he's got Tyron Smith. Now he's building the offensive line. Oh, guys get hurt. Guys do this. It doesn't matter. We see players get hurt all the time in the
Absolutely.
NFL. It's a constant. It's about how you adapt, and the Jets, as soon as something goes wrong, they just crumbled.
Yeah.
And that was the essence of their team the last 6 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, though, in the wake of all of this destruction and, dismembering of the teams that both of you love so much, what are you looking for in terms of the rebuilding structure of each of your teams right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're both looking at a quarterback, I think. Yeah. The Giants probably will have a higher draft pick than the Jets because we like to win a couple games and mess up our draft selection. But
us too.
I'm looking at quarterbacks. I'm looking at obviously Shador is the big name. I like Cam Ward a lot. I think he would be a fun piece, and I would be interested to see what kind of NFL offense would circulate around Cam Ward. I think his talent and his skill set is very unique in terms of his arm and the way he can move. But I like him. I love Jackson Dart. I don't know what that transition is going to be like into the NFL for him. But we have Jordan Travis sitting on our bench, and we redshirted him for an entire year with the intent of hopefully him playing. Why not try him out? Why not? First
Agreed.
year, like worst comes to worst, you're going to have to pay all these guys at some point. You're going to have to pay Garrett. You're going to have to pay Sauce Gardner. I don't know. I think that's more of a end of the season kind of question.
Sure.
Because, we're 3-8, but also, like, we're going to end up winning 2 games and having the 11th pick in the draft. And then and also, why is as soon as the Jets are, like, truly bad and, like, really need to tank, every single team in the NFL is, like, 2-8 or 2-9. Yeah. It's insane. And, like, we genuinely can't even lose correctly.
Right.
It's so
can't
insane.
Win the losing category.
It's so insane. It's oh my God, it's brutal. But they need to rebuild that offensive line. I like the Olufashinu has been okay.
Yes, yeah.
That pick has been solid, and honestly, just fixing up this defense. They weren't as talented as people made them seem based on last year, and they kind of got exposed at the end. But the head coach is going to be the most important. Head coach,
Absolutely.
OC. But yeah.
Yeah, what are you thinking, Ari?
Yeah, speaking of head coach, I think the Giants head coach, Brian Daboll, I think he's going to get another shot next year. I think him and general manager Joe Shane, I think the Giants are going to keep him around for another year just to see, like, obviously every regime makes mistakes. Obviously Daniel Jones was a huge mistake for the Giants. But, I mean, the one thing that they didn't get wrong was the Saquon Barkley situation. Sure, he's having an MVP season with Philadelphia, but they got his replacement, Tyrone Tracy Jr., who's putting up really solid numbers as well, which Giants fans should be happy about. He's shown a lot of potential. But as far as next season goes, I think they do. I mean, this might be controversial. I think they have earned the right to draft their guy. I think Brian Daboll, he's a great coach, phenomenal coach. I mean, we saw the roster that he brought to the playoffs in 2022. They weren't the best. And now next season, we have some good quarterback choices, like you mentioned. They could either do a bridge year with Justin Fields, who's a free agent, Sam Darnold, who's a free agent, and really wait for Arch Manning in 2026. If they're trying to accelerate that rebuilding process, then I'd say go out and get Shadur Sanders in the draft or Cam Ward. It all really depends on where they end at the end of the regular season. If it's in the top 5, they're going to have a chance to pick a potential franchise guy. But if it's outside the top 5 and they miss out on those 2 quarterbacks, then that's when you start to consider the bridge year and say, hey, we're going to go sign Justin Fields. He's going to be the starter, and then take it from there.
Yeah, I got a couple names here for Jets possible head coach candidates. I'll throw them out there at you guys. These are just names that I like. You tell me yes or no.
Okay.
Ben Johnson.
Yes. Lions offensive coordinator?
Yeah, Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. I'm worried about his personality a little bit. I don't think he's head coach.
I'm going yes, absolutely.
Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator.
I feel like the Texans offense this year has taken a step back. I know they've had a lot of injuries with Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins, but I mean, he wouldn't be a bad pick.
And then here are my big 3. These are my big 3. We'll start with the least controversial one. We'll go Mike Vrabel. Probably one of my favorite candidates that they can bring in. Rex Ryan.
I'm going yes.
Jacob, I know that's your.
Rex Ryan is the only coach I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Rex Ryan is the only coach I've seen in my lifetime that cares about the Jets organization. I'm really not opposed to bringing him back if he can knock it out of the park with like his OC picks and all that with the staff he brings on. My final one, the guy that's got me feeling nicey, John Gruden. I love that pick. John Gruden is just, I love what he's doing on TikTok. I love that he's been such a weird guy since he's gotten fired from the Raiders.
Didn't he just join Barstool?
He joined Barstool, just signed
yeah.
a huge contract, but it'd be really cool to see him as the head coach of this team. They need, honestly, the bottom line is they really just need a leader and a true head coach, not just a football guy. But just please, if you're the Jets, just keep losing here on out, please.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and speaking of leaders, we are going to have our college football leader, Maria, take us through her game picks right after this break.
Great job, guys. I liked your little transition there. Woo.
Thanks. I got a little worried when I was talking about Daniel Jones about the ESPN first take because it was super controversial this morning on Twitter, and I remembered while I was speaking that we're on an ESPN show, so I had to take a step back.
Temper it. Yep, just temper it.
That's why I was that's why they talked about it this morning.
Right? Yep, he's like, it's okay, we're good.
I was like, all right, I didn't say anything. All right, let's finish strong. All right, what is your guys' favorite Thanksgiving food?
I love potatoes. Any sort of potatoes, like mashed potatoes or sweet potatoes.
That's a good answer. I'm going to have to agree.
I love
All right,
potatoes.
I like it.
I also make a corn casserole, which is basically cornbread, but just a little bit yummier.
Okay.
It's so good. It's so basic.
Nice.
But I love it.
Jacob, my dad texted me saying he can't wait to hear your parlay, the Thanksgiving parlay.
The put the turkey in the oven kind of parlay. About to make bread here. We're about to. We've been sneaky red hot.
We have been.
We've been really good.
I'm actually. You got to send me your picks for this week.
I will.
Every Sunday I punt away $5 because I just do a five-team parlay for the NFL, just straight money lines, no player props or anything.
Better than my 5-leg first touchdown parlay in each game on a Sunday slate.
I'm literally just donating $5 every week, but it's fun. It's fun to lose and fun to donate sometimes. So
no, it's fun to give. You got to give. I got to look more at these games for this weekend because I got a few games I really like, but
yeah,
there's a few that like BC UNC is a tough one.
It is, yeah.
I mean, Ole Miss going to Florida is so scary.
I know, it is scary.
Our guy Steven with Syracuse is curious if you guys think either the Jets or Giants could use McCoy.
I mean, I think the Giants could use him because they need an accurate quarterback, but
I would love to see that personally.
The Giants just need any quarterback that can complete a pass. give us a chance to win.
There's actually a few games I really like.
For NFL or
Just college.
college?
I haven't done an NFL. Let me cook up an NFL one real quick.
Cook it up.
It's just so tough to find value anywhere on the NFL now.
I know. There's value in my five
The
five like
Panthers.
parlays that never hit.
Oh my god, the Panthers are like absolutely gonna beat the Chiefs. At home.
I'm so excited.
Oh, do we come back from break after this?
Yep.
This is commercial. Oh, cool.
Awesome.
10 minutes for the rest of our lives. Let's go.
Here we go. Let's make it last, boys.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
This is one of my favorite segments that we do.
It's so fun.
Niners-Packers snow game this week.
Whoa.
Ooh. Packers,
Totals 46 and a half.
Packers are going to take the cake there.
Give me the pack.
I think the 49ers, what happened to them, man?
Yo, the Cardinals, like, even money at
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon. I'm sitting next to the queen of college football, Maria Wainscott, and depressed Jets fan, Jacob Charnow. For our last segment of the day, Maria, she will take the reins on this one and giving us her top college football picks for this week.
It's week 13, guys. There's only 2 weeks left of the regular season in college football. I'm getting so excited. It's been our favorite segment all season long to talk about college football predictions. Week 13, here we go. The game I'm most excited about, and it's the biggest game in college football all season, so I am so excited. It is number 5, the Indiana Hoosiers versus number 2, Ohio State Buckeyes. The storyline to know today is the winner essentially clinches a spot in both the Big Ten title game and in the college football playoff. Much of Indiana's schedule has been fairly soft so far, but aside from the strength of schedule and their opponents in general, the Hoosiers have yet to face a passing attack with as much talent as we've seen in Will Howard and Ohio State. Aided by 2 potential first-round wide receivers, quarterback Will Howard is quietly having an elite season. He currently owns the 8th best passing grade in college football at 87.8. He also has 24 passing touchdowns, which lead the Big Ten. And most importantly, he's shown improvement as a true dropback passer with an 83 PFF grade in non-play action passing, which is definitely going to support him this week. Also, Indiana is a force to be reckoned with in this game. They're not going down without a fight. Indiana's coverage schemes are something to be feared. They're so unique because it rotates its safeties more than any team in the country. So you just don't know what coverage scheme you're going to be looking at. The goal of this kind of coverage scheme with Indiana is basically to force quarterbacks to see these rotations post-snap and delay their decision making, which Indiana has been incredibly effective at all season long. That can create these like late throw scenarios from quarterbacks as well as more time for the pass rush to disrupt the pocket. However, even though these safety coverage schemes are really unique, I think that given the fact that this game is in the shoe, right? Ohio State being number 2, they're coming off of so many wins this season. I think the Buckeyes edge them out experience-wise. They have such a veteran presence, one of the most veteran offensive lines in the entire country, not to mention Will Howard and his calm, cool, and collectedness under pressure. I think their veteran presence, their seasoned nature as a program puts them over the top. I'm taking Ohio State 31, Indiana 24.
Maria, I like it, but
so here's
I
my
might
thing.
disagree
Here's my
a
thing,
little bit.
Maria.
Okay.
That was incredible football analysis, but what you're not accounting for is vibes.
Okay, I love vibes. Here we go.
Indiana is just I mean, they are as red hot as a football team can be.
I get it. I get
And
it.
like, imagine the Hoosiers going in to Columbus and just taking down the Buckeyes. I mean, it would be
so
electric.
awesome.
It would be
It'd be so
awesome.
awesome.
This is a team that like in the first year of the expanded playoff, if the Indiana Hoosiers go on a run in the college football playoff the first year of the expansion, the college football committee knows that they have done something well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm also very anti-Ohio State, but
same.
But that is, I mean, I'll be rooting for Indiana so hard that I cannot even predict that Ohio State will win, despite what I actually think. So
I got you.
When it comes to Indiana, right? And I was checking out the spreads before we got on air, and I saw that they're 11.5-point underdogs. Correct?
It's moving. So
Correct.
it moved in between the time we started this show, actually started this segment, and now it moved from 11.5 to 10.5 back up to 11.5.
Okay. All right. So when I
Okay.
look at the spread there, and it's the number 2 country in the nation against the number 5, I feel like that's a pretty big number, 11.5. So maybe is Indiana getting a little bit disrespected here? Potentially. But like Jacob accounted for, the vibes. It's all about the vibes. That's why I'm taking IU. I'm taking IU in this one. I don't have a score prediction because I think it's going to be close, and I think they're just going to squeak it out.
So that was that. Yeah, I was gonna say. I wrote here like I'm calling my shot. Not
Yeah.
only am I taking Indiana plus 11.5, give me Indiana on the money line at plus 330.
I love
I like
it.
it.
I feel
I
like
like
we
it.
could talk about Kurt Signetti and the Cinderella story that is Indiana all season long for the rest of all of the shows that we could ever do. But we got to move on. We got another game of the
to my
week.
real team, to my actual team. I mean,
Yes.
I pulled really hard for Indiana there, but I am frightened for this game.
Yes,
that you were
this
about to talk
one
about.
is, of course, Jacob's favorite, Ole Miss and his trusty Jackson Dart at number 9 at Florida. They're playing in the swamp. This is a scary game, and the biggest storyline to know for everyone, Ole Miss is looking to solidify a playoff spot. With only 2 weeks remaining in the regular season, Ole Miss has to cling this playoff spot today. I'm looking for them to train the rest of today and hopefully go into the swamp tomorrow and just fire away. With their win over Georgia already under their belt, the Rebels should be in good position to make this 12-team playoff format, and hopefully they can win out their final 2 games of the season. Florida, obviously, and Mississippi State. The Gators are likely to play the role of spoiler this weekend. I am seriously concerned. We were talking before the show. Florida has been one of the scariest people to go up against in terms of upset potential. They are an unbelievable team this season. Don't be led astray by their record at 5-5. They've had a solid year, and they've actually beaten both Kentucky and LSU by a combined 39 points, which are actually the 2 schools that took down Ole Miss this season. So with that game occurring in the swamp coming up tomorrow, the Rebels need to bring their best this week. I'm taking Ole Miss though. 35, Florida 21. I think Ole Miss's pass rush helps limit the downfield ability of DJ Lagway, while Florida's secondary should have a lot of issues containing Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I'm so nervous because this is such a trap game, and it's so obvious that Ole Miss is looking towards the playoff already, and that is something that I don't like. But I also trust Lane Kiffin. I trust his ability to not fold in those games against teams that are worse than them, if we're being frank. But I mean, Ole Miss, they gotta win this game. I'm just so nervous.
I know.
like
It's
really
a lot.
I love this Ole Miss team like so much. Like the Rebels are just, if they can just get in, I really think that they'll go on a run, and I think they have the talent to do it. And I've already talked to my friends, and if they end up hosting a game in Oxford, I think the way they do that is like Ohio State beats Indiana, A&M beats Texas when they play. I think then a game would be hosted in Oxford. So,
Yeah, interesting.
and I will be there no matter what.
I love it.
For this one, I think Ole Miss, they proved themselves against Georgia. They proved to the world that they're a powerhouse. I don't think that they will overlook Florida just because they took it to Georgia, right? They absolutely took it. And Yeah, it's possible that they overlook it, but I think their mentality all season has just been destroy whatever is in front of them.
Yeah.
So I'm going Ole Miss for this one.
I gotcha. All right, we got to move quickly here through the last game of the week that I think is the most important to watch. It's number 6 Notre Dame versus number 19 Army. They're playing in Yankee Stadium, so here in New York. I'm going to that game. It's going to be a great one, and the biggest storyline to know, it's a game with tremendous playoff consequences for both teams. A 9-1 team with Notre Dame needs to extend their hopes of making the playoffs by winning this game. Basically, with the win over Texas A&M in week 1 that they had, it was effectively eliminated in the next week after that loss to NIU. So they need this bad. And Army, they're one of 3 undefeated teams left in America. So it's going to be a big game with a lot of contentious trends. But I think Notre Dame has been dominant on the ground all season. I'm taking them. They place 2nd in the Power 4 in EPA per run. I think they can take it. It's Notre Dame 35, Army 13 in my eyes. The Black Knights take their first loss of the season.
I completely agree. I'm going to run through these college football picks real quick. Speed run. Let's go. ASU money line versus BYU. I think ASU spoils the Cougars' chances into the college football playoff. Give me Colorado money line against Kansas because Shador. North Texas money line minus 142. You guys have no idea about my North Texas affection, but I love them. They're awesome. West Virginia money line plus 130 versus UCF, and then like I said, Indiana plus 11.5 and Indiana on the money line.
Well, guys, that was great. That about wraps it up here for us for this semester for Newhouse Afternoon. Today was our last show, and we're heading into Thanksgiving break. So, guys, thankful for you guys. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. To everybody in the studio, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. And go home, eat some pies, hang out with your family, watch some football, and have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
The 315 with Brian Higgins.
If Syracuse can come out